Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Stephanie Stevens Show. I am Stephanie Stevens, and I will be your host for the next 30 to 35 minutes. Today, we are talking about Black on Black discrimination, Blacks against Blacks. Now, as you know, all of the protests are going on around the world for Black Lives Matter. Today, I have invited one of my children on to actually chat about this issue because I find that he is young. He's done a lot in the LGBT pronoun two-spirited community. And I think he has a lot to say on the issue, and I think he can educate us and inspire us. So today, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to my show, one of my children, Mr. TKO Monroe. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm here. I'm well, surviving, thriving actually, probably. But I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. Now, as you know, just give us a little bit of how should I address you? How do you identify?
Oh, work. Okay, so I was gonna say, yes. Hi everyone. My name is TKO. I use him, he, I guess they pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm a black gay male.
Mm-hmm.
I identify as fucking awesome.
Okay, where are you from?
I was born in Jamaica.
Okay. Now, how long have you been in Toronto?
Forever. We're not gonna age me, but forever.
Oh, okay. Now,
Literally.
now I saw something on your profile that you were attending York University or you have attended
Mhm.
York University. What were you studying?
I'm halfway through my small degree, but I'm doing sociology.
Okay.
Sociology is my major. I took a break, and when I go back, think I'm gonna minor in psychology.
Okay. Meaning what? What kind of job are you looking for?
Actually, I'm already in my profession. I'm an entertainer,
Oh,
but
okay.
sociology for me is it's I guess the most or for everyone to understand, it's basically just research of how we socialize, research on how we socialize as humans, how we interact, essentially.
See, that's why I wanted you on my show. Now, another thing I thought about is the fact that you have participated in a lot of the Black events and just a lot of the events in Toronto and around the world. And you are somewhat attached, or you have some sort of insight on what is happening now. Now,
Uh,
where do you think
Fair.
this protest stemmed from? Like, just give us a little bit of where do you think this march came from, and why is it that this march has the world's attention now?
Um, well, first of all, RIP, George
Mm-hmm.
Floyd, which is the black man that was, I guess, well, actually not even the latest, because actually since this happened, probably about 2 weeks ago now, a lot more black folks have died. So I think what has happened, or what has incited all this, is that there's yet another video of police brutality, we're going to call it that for this particular
Mm-hmm.
case, or just police murdering black people, however we want to look at it. And I think that people are just tired. And I mean, with Corona, and we've all been locked up in our houses, and well, some of us, we've been quarantined, and like everything else is going on. Like the last thing you'd want, or the last thing you'd expect to see, is this kind of violence from the police yet again. And yeah, I think we're just tired of it, just tired.
Mm-hmm. Now,
But also, again, like I said, that take into consideration that we've also been in our houses for the last couple of months, and like, there's a
the
pandemic, and
frustration, the
yeah,
frustration
yeah,
of it all.
yeah.
Okay, now you being a part of the LGBT Black gay community in Toronto. Now,
Mhm.
I hear a lot about this. And, I've been around for 30 years in our community. And generally, I, I understand the different Black cultures. We understand that. Um, And why is it that Black people, even in our own community, treat each other badly?
I think you contextualize that wrong, first of all. But also,
Okay.
when you say Black people, you say it
Not
like you're.
not all, but I'm just talking about
Yeah,
the
I know. But when you say Black people like that, you make it sound like you're not a Black people. So
no, I am Black. I understand that. I just don't like it. One thing about me is sometimes when I phrase things, I
Mhm.
say it in a form of it shocks me because
Okay, I get
a
that. That's
lot
why.
of things shock me about just the way we treat each other. And you know, I have been all over the world, and you know me. I was in deep Jamaica. I was in St. Gayer than gay can be.
Can be.
But yet I always went about my business. Nobody ever bothered me. I treated people with respect. I never saw them as different, regardless if they were Jamaican, American, Chinese, whatever they were. But it just really makes me cringe when I see that other Black people treat each other so badly when we are so
How often do you see this?
good together.
How often do you see this, or like how often do you experience this, or how often do you like see
Well,
this?
the reason I said this is because I've had a few Black guests on the show so far, and some of the shows that are still coming up. And for some reason, this kept coming up with a lot of them,
Them
with a
being.
lot of them saying exactly what I'm saying now. If Black people stop hating on each other and helping each other, we would be thriving because
I
we
don't.
have done so much to
I guess
contribute.
I can't speak to that experience because even though yes, there are Black people that don't like me because look at me, I'm awesome. But I don't
Okay.
like this inherent thing how you're making it and or your other guests are making it sound like. Yes, I believe that collectively we there are bad apples, and I'm using this language for a reason. I believe that there are bad apples, but I don't think it's this inherent thing that that we are haters on each other.
Okay, let me ask you something else then. Then this way, maybe this will help explain it to me from your point of view.
I could explain it to you from my point of view easily. It's not that what you're saying does not exist. Yes, period.
Okay,
Yeah.
light skin and dark skin.
Okay, colorism.
What do you think about that?
I think that colorism.
Classism.
That's colorism, and I think that it's real. Um, the closer you are to whiteness, therefore light skin, you either A, suffer, and I use the word loosely, from the complex of privilege, or the privilege that you assume you have. And dark-skinned people are treated unfairly, treated unfairly, treated poorly, and it's what we experience. And now again, if that is what you are referring to, or if that is what is being referred to with this whole black on black thing, then I can understand that and contextualize it accordingly. But yeah, that colorism is a very real thing.
Okay. Now, the reason I wanted to do the show is because not just because of the marches and the protests around the world and that Black Lives Matter. For me, it was really about, I kept hearing Black people, I don't like this one, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't like that one.
I
I
don't
don't
like
like,
men.
and
Like,
I understand sometimes, like you said, when there's bad apples in a bunch, there's gonna be bad apples, and sometimes they're gonna be Black, and that's just the way it is. But what I don't understand is how we come from a Black community,
mm-hmm,
normally straight at the
mm-hmm,
beginning,
that part.
trying to make them understand who we are, eventually wander out into the world. But
Mm-hmm.
yet that hate or that dislike still stays there from even our own family members, cousins, neighbors, people we work with
I
don't
think it's important
like
to acknowledge.
us.
I think it's important to acknowledge in that same breath, like we are all suffering from the traumas that we experience as kids, or
Mm.
experience as people. Period. that our parents have taught us. Like, for example, religion has done a number on many folks. And we don't necessarily know how to heal, and we don't necessarily know how to let go. Some of us, especially like Black gay men in particular.
Mhm.
And I think that as Caribbeans in our backgrounds, we're used to the hatred, and we then perpetuate and or project when we see other people, because we're constantly in the defense, or we're constantly on defense. So it takes a while for us to, some of us don't even ever really, because I mean, there are definitely some Black people that I don't particularly fancy. But that's okay. Like, I don't think that we're all supposed to just like love each other because we're Black. Us, all skin folk,
Mhm.
kinfolk, first of all. And
Mhm.
also at the end of the day, like, again, there are other nuances, like our politics, like who we love and things like that. So it's not just one thing. It's a multitude of things that we have to work through, that we don't even know that we're supposed to work through.
Mhm. Now, in an earlier conversation I had with one of my guests, she actually mentioned that Black people, the reason there's some of them are angry
Is this a
is
Black
because we
person?
were, huh?
Is this a Black person?
Yeah, this is a
Okay,
Black person coming from a Black person. Everything we're going to do today on the show is about Black.
cool.
So when I'm talking about something, it's coming from a Black
A Black person.
experience or
Got
a
it.
question. Okay. Now, this person, she told me that Black people want to support, but don't have the resources to really support wholeheartedly because it's just not there.
Support how? So what does support look like?
In general, just to put, she was saying that she was doing events around and trying and promoting the Black culture and just the music and the history of, and there's nothing wrong with that. But she
Mm-hmm.
said she had a hard time getting people to come to venues early, to support the venue to where it would have enough resources to pay everyone, to sort of make the event very good, make sure that the venue was paid, everybody was paid, and the fact that the people that came to the event had a great time and they left there with a good experience. And
Mm-hmm.
she said that she stopped doing the events because 80% of the events were successful but non-monetary.
Yes. If
And
you, okay, continue.
but she didn't understand why is it that Black people, well, in general,
Mm-hmm.
you feel don't go to the events earlier, don't
Well,
support the events earlier.
I'm
Is it
definitely one of those people. So I,
is it
I'm
hmm?
I'm one of those people. I'm not a go to the party early kind of guy. So
Mhm.
there's that. Like, I mean, I don't think that, like, if you want to have an event that starts, for example, at 8, and
Mhm.
actually, let me take it a step back. If you are going to be a promoter and or an event coordinator, you have to
Mhm.
know your audience and or who you want to be your target market. So if you want to have a party that starts at 8, there are definitely I'm sure there are a bunch of Black people that will enjoy
Mhm.
this function. It's early for them. They might have school the next day. They might have work. They go out and have a good time, blah, 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 all that stuff. So you cater
Mhm.
to that particular audience, and that so becomes your audience, your market, your people, your followers. But if you want to create, or I guess let's say disrupt the club goers, like
Mhm.
myself, the ones that do the drugs and the ones that have a good time and all these things, like then we're not the problem. You are, for trying to have us assimilate to your 8 o'clock party or your early party time.
Mhm.
So
Now,
this is a two-way street here.
okay. Now, when you see that young Black people are protesting, which I'm glad to see a lot of young people out on the streets protesting, meaning that they were able to see the video for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Not now. What do you think needs to happen now that all of this is going on? When this settles down, what do you think is going to? What do you think needs to happen now? What's the next step in this?
Currently, we are at a place in time, literally, where
I think the
we.
video's on pause.
Oh, it is. Give me one. Sorry, 1 second. I just gotta send this text message. Sorry. I don't want to. I'm just telling these people outside that they should come back in like 15 minutes.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on the Stephanie Stevens Show today, we are having the discussion with Mr. T.K.O. Monroe about black on black, excuse me, black on black issues about black people, some black people not really liking other black
Yeah,
people.
we gotta stop saying that black on black thing. It sounds it's triggering. We gotta stop saying that. It's not a thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We're talking about black
Now,
issues.
okay. Okay. Now, what is it that you think needs to happen after the protest?
Okay, so again, also as I was saying, we're at a place at a time where we've actually never been here before, collectively.
Mhm.
So everything that we are seeing, everything that we are experiencing, everything that we are feeling, everything that is like we're literally in like a vacuum right now because of started with COVID, and it extended into we're back again. We're back at the police brutality thing. So what happens next? Well, so many things can happen. The discourse of all this is actually so exciting to me because sociology, this is what I do, or this is what I love. So there are I'm sure you've heard different arguments, like defund the police, and
Mhm.
abolish police. White people, do your part, help dismantle the system of oppression, the system of systematic oppression that has been created by your ancestors, if we're going to call them that. I don't know.
Mhm.
So many things can happen. Police can not end, or like we could live in a world where police don't exist. And then by police, I mean police, the system of police, or the institution of policing. Sorry, the system of police, but also the institution of policing. Because again, there was a time that police didn't exist and the world was fine.
Mhm.
It's not like.
Now,
Mhm.
now, as you know, in our community, I'm not just going to say the black community. I'm just going to say within our community.
As in Toronto, like the gays.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the Toronto gay community.
Hmm.
How do you see, from your experience,
Hmm.
that black people, do we fit in this community?
I'm gonna say we collectively, not we as in myself, because I definitely do not.
Okay.
But I think that we do a very good job of not even fitting in. We do a good job of assimilating and doing what they meaning the white people want us to do, because uh, it's what we are. It's best that we like. If we don't do that, we feel that there's no other community for us, and that's totally understandable. I mean, I understand that. So we end up with a lot of anti-blackness and a lot of inner self-hate type things. And I'm not saying this to judge and or to what's the word, label anybody, but there's definitely some issues again that need to be worked out. For example, I myself personally do not support any of the clubs, or what people call it, the bars. I don't support Church Street, like the village, the neighborhood. I don't subscribe to it at all. That is my personal politic. I'm friends with people there. Like, I mean, I'm friends with the drag queens because I used to do drag, and outside of that, they're my friends. Obviously, you're my mom, so like
Yeah.
this, that I'm there. But I don't want to give them any of my money. I don't want to give the street any of my time. The black folks that I interact with on that street, or when I have to interact with them, it's never really a pleasant experience per se. And I don't mean that in a way that like they're rude or whatever the case is, or like to me directly. because again, I don't interact like that. But like just there's a certain, I'm gonna say, facetiousness that happens that I see, that I'm just like, I don't want to be a part of this, and I don't want to experience this, right?
Okay, you don't have to answer this next question because it might be a little bit touchy, but are you religious?
Oh, that's not, I mean, sorry, that's not touchy. No, good question. So no, because I don't go to church, like I don't subscribe to religion, but I do believe that there is a higher power. Actually, I believe there are higher powers, to be honest. But yes, I do believe that there is something bigger, greater than I.
Okay. Now, as we know, the 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 community at large in Toronto, do you think there is a need for Black events within a celebration for all?
Who's the all? As in all Black people?
No, in the LGBT community, in our community, do
We
you
have those
think
things.
there
We
is a
have that.
need? I understand, but I want to know your opinion. Do you think there is a need? Do you think Blocko is relevant in an inclusive community?
We're not inclusive though.
Okay,
That's the
well,
problem.
this is what I'm saying.
But
But this is
yes,
we are under that umbrella.
yes, I believe that there's always going to be a need for any for any group, regardless of race and or, for example, if it's a group for just if it's a space for people living with disabilities. Like I believe that there's always going to be there always will be a need for the space for said group, because they have to experience life together in safety, with safety. So away from all the other groups. So this is not just about white folks now. That when Black people come together and we're together by ourselves, there's a different energy, there's a different feeling, there's a different experience. It's just like when Jamaicans come together, or when like Caribbeans in general come together, right? So yes, there'll always be a need of for singular or particular spaces for particular people. And oftentimes, I guess people forget that it's not just Black people that need that. Oh, sorry, it's not just Black people that need that, but it literally is only Black people that don't have that. Because again, if you check into the other, I guess, races around us, we have the Asians that go to their own little school after they go to public school. We have the religious, I guess, brown people that have their own religion and they do that by themselves separately. Like everyone has like that space where they need, or not even need, where they come together with their own. So it's literally only Black people that seem to not have that. Like we just got an Afrocentric school like yesterday, essentially. You know what I mean?
All right. This to tie this question into that question. Do you think there is a need today for LGBT community as far as socializing?
Yes.
Why?
100%. One, you don't. Okay, for example, when I was growing up in high school, I wasn't the only gay person per se, although they made me feel like that. But then I realized I was the only Black gay person, also, which turned out not to be true. But my teacher in grade 9 brought me to, and I'll never forget it because I didn't even understand it then. But my teacher in grade 9 brought me to the 519, and it was like a coming out group, and I was literally the only Black person in the room. And like I felt like in retrospect, like looking back, I felt like I didn't belong, but it wasn't just because of like I wasn't even thinking about race. Like it wasn't just because of that, but like there was no one in the room that said the things or experienced the things the way I experienced them. So this, though, like what you're asking now is it touches on representation and how and why it matters. So for me, being the only Black kid in this room full of white people, I didn't quite get what they were talking about. Like they were talking about how their parents, like, you know, they came out to the parents and, you know, their parents are talking to them about it and things like that. I'm like, I couldn't tell Brenda anything about being gay at this point in time, right? Like that was not a thing. But when I became a facilitator of a youth group for queer youth, specifically queer youth of color, I then started to hear things that I understood. Like we can't tell our parents, like we have to not be gay. Like then I started to hear. So then I understood or better understood. And then I felt more comfortable. so it's important that, again, like, seeing someone like you, looking like you, talking like you, saying things that you understand is very important. So yes, there will always be a need for spaces like that, because again, when we're out in the world, literally, we're surrounded by whiteness. And even if we're not conscious of it, it's the umbrella of everything around us, right? So it's important.
Now that you have been in Toronto for so many years, and I've gotten to know you very well, and a lot of your friends and stuff like that, and I've always, I didn't need to make an excuse for me being at the party or at the ball, even though most of the time I just felt I'm old. I know I'll dance a little bit, but I can't do all of that, and I ain't really interested. I'm just more interested in the experience and just being around people that I know and I like and I care about, and being around community in general. Now, what do you find? What have you found the most difficult for you as an LGBTQ two-spirit, all these things here wearing me out. But how have you found, where do you think your voice needs to be heard?
Needs to be heard, or where it's heard?
Well, or just where it's heard. Who's listening to TKO Monroe? Who's listening to you when you're doing your events? When you're doing
my audience,
your psychology? Who's listening to you?
My audience, I believe, at this point, because I've been doing this for, I've been doing this for like 12 years now, 12, 13, 13 years now. So I've been a public speaker. I don't necessarily think I'm an activist. I think I'm very conscious of what's going on around me. So therefore, I take part. So from that perspective, yeah, I don't believe I'm an activist per se, but I do things that activism would look like.
Now,
I'm more of an advocate. There we go.
Oh, okay. There's a difference.
Yes, for me, it's about. Thank you. That's a really good question. I'm cluing in for myself now. So for me, it's really about making sure everyone's voice is heard.
Okay.
So I don't really care. I'm not here to champion necessarily for any one particular person, because for me, it's all like any injustice is an injustice. Like it's no one's winning. So at best, I want everyone, or for me, it's about understanding, even if it's in the smallest amount. And if the understanding happens to just be that we're just going to disagree because we don't understand, then that's fine as well. We don't have to agree. We don't have to necessarily like each other. Like it's not a thing. Like there's no reason for that, right? So yeah, I'm here. I'm a champion of people speaking up for themselves, and within reason, of course, I guess. And I find that because of that, I do a lot of listening. So I only speak when I feel that, or most times when people ask me to. But I believe though that my voice is heard across because my market, not just my market, but like I've done so many things over the years that I have a wider audience.
Okay.
Not just black.
Just a couple of more questions, and then we're going to close it up. Now, do you think us, the Black community, do you think we are actually welcomed into the community, or do we have to push, shove? What do you think about that?
We're not welcomed, one. And two, we haven't pushed and shoved enough, if that's the case, which is what I was saying before. Like when you get to Church Street, there's an assimilation that happens. The message is clear, and you either conform or you don't. And some people, the thing, and this is what's actually really, really annoying to me about Church Street, it's not even the whiteness or the white people. It's literally the Black people who don't seem to, like, they can't really let go of their Blackness because, it's there, but then they're not really white and they can't really be white. So it's like this thing where they're like half this, half that. And it's like this annoying thing that just to watch. For me, it's just annoying.
Now I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions in closing that I think nobody has addressed. And I think you because you're from there. You say you're from Jamaica.
Mhm.
Now, coming from Jamaica, and the majority of the people in Jamaica
Homophobic.
don't like
You're
gays.
homophobic. Yeah, yeah, you can
Now,
say it.
now, oh, okay. Now, I'm trying not to tiptoe around it, but I'm trying to
Right,
say
I'm
it
like, they're
right.
homophobic. It's okay.
Yeah. Now, what do you think this, do you think the people in Jamaica are marching for this man, George Floyd?
I believe they actually had there was rumor because I didn't see it. But I am under the impression that there was a slight uh, march or something of that nature. But I do not know personally. But I wouldn't be surprised because again, due to heteronormatives and just Jamaicans in general being so homophobic, I believe that this is something that they would definitely march for because why not?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just wanted to know your opinion because I really wanted to understand use some black countries or black communities within a black community, and you see very few white people or in, let's just say people of different color
Mhm.
within certain places like Jamaica or St. Martin or
But you see,
Trinidad, just other places.
with the islands now, apparently, well, from my understanding, at least how people make it sound, like the island now are now being taken over by
Mm-hmm.
by Asians. So this whole mixing is happening regardless of whether we want it to or not.
Okay, now that you said that,
Mhm.
what do you feel like there is a race shift in Toronto?
What do you mean by race shift?
Like, do you think there's a shift of power, identifying us all as Canadian, but yet the face we see the most in
Right.
this country that we didn't see before is Asian?
Hmm. So I guess no, I don't see that. One. But with me saying no, that's probably actually lies. I can't even contextualize that because I actually do pay attention to these things, sociology. I can't help it. No, I don't. I do not think that there's, let's say, an influx of more races than white. But if
Oh,
there is, it's probably because where the minority actually is the majority. So it wouldn't be surprising.
okay. Now, just in closing,
Mhm.
just a couple more.
Yeah, again,
Do
no
you
rush.
see a positive future for the Black LGBT pronoun two-spirited community?
Well, okay. So that question is kind of loaded, but um, for me, the simple fact that we're alive is awesome. Period.
Yeah.
So when you say better, do you mean better in terms of like what? Like in terms of
No,
rights?
I want to
Or
know your opinion because you're young. So it's different for me because I'm older and I'm sort of
yeah, but
set in my ways. But I want to understand young people's the future. What you think the future is? What do you think that you want to happen? Do you see some positive thing happen? Do you see Travoy having the best job? Do you see Travoy opening his own clubs? Do you see Travoy
but
having his voice heard within a
okay. So
community that's been where he's been muted for so many years?
now again, I can't necessarily speak to that experience because that is not my experience. Travoy already has the best job, and Travoy
Okay.
is not letting the system hold him
Mhm.
down. But that's a personal choice for myself. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you mean by in the future or a better future, if you mean, do I not want to have a system so that the people after me don't have to be fighting the same fight that Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were fighting? Yes, I definitely can see that. I would love that. Hopefully before I die. I'd love to see that. But if I don't see that, and if that isn't the change that we have, I just hope we don't go backwards to a place where, like in Canada, where they now criminalize like legally criminalize like being gay.
Okay.
So in my mind, like we're not at the bestest place, but we're definitely not at the worstest place. So in
Well,
the future,
coming from the States and being here as long as I have, I must say, I've had my ups and downs here in Canada, but I say overall, like anybody else that's a citizen, and the mere fact that I am alive, I'm healthy, and Canada has taken great care of me, so I have nothing but respect for this country. Now, but of course, every country has its issues.
just like
Now,
every people.
but where I live is the country that I'm more concerned about because
Indeed.
this is where I live.
Indeed.
So now you, Travoy,
Mhm.
have so much that you've done. What are you actually doing now?
Right now, I'm pretending to quarantine and getting money because the government, for the first time in my
Very
entire
funny.
life,
That sounds like something I would say.
for the first time in my entire life, the government has offered me money to survive. So I'm definitely taking that money and relaxing and chilling, which is what I normally do anyways. The only difference is, I actually have booked some gigs, some of these Zoom things, which I find so annoying. But I'm actually just relaxing. Like I plugged out of the matrix a long time ago. Like I'm not a 9-to-5er. I don't like get up and go to work, and I don't do that stuff. That's for the.
Well, okay.
I'm chilling. I'm living my best life.
Well, I want to just say it's been great talking to you. I miss you because you're always so straight up and straight out honest with Mama. And we always have the best time. And you just tell me just the way it is. And that's what I like. And I'm glad I had you on today because you're just real. And like I said, in many of my videos, I connect to people that are just real. And no matter how bad the situation is, if you're just real, a good outcome somehow always pans out. So I just want to say thank you today for giving us your view on the Black and Black issues within our community and many other communities.
Yes.
And the fact that hopefully somewhere along the line we will learn something from all of this, from the corona to being isolated, lonely, to being selfish towards each other.
That's why Corona and me couldn't get along.
And somewhere along the line, there will be a good answer out of all of this for all of us. And somehow we will understand that we are all human beings, period.
Yes.
And I just hope that this protest and this pandemic has taught us a really good lesson. Because if we go through this again, we won't survive. We won't. I mean, we're fighting the good fight.
Again,
we're fighting the good fight.
We're still fighting the fight that they were fighting in the 60s again. We're obviously fighting. Either we're fighters or something's got to give.
Okay, I'm just gonna. I like to say this because to me you are young. So what do you think? What advice or what do you think is gonna happen from all this? Like, what do you hope will happen?
Honestly, like I said, as a sociologist, or how my brain works, like normally I'm a Virgo, so I like to look at situations from all aspects, like a holistic view. So for me, the big picture is that there has to be some change. That's what I see. As for what the change is, like I said, for me, this is the first time, well, for all of us, but like specifically for me, like I'm so locked in everything that's happening on Twitter, on Facebook, although I hate Facebook, but on Facebook, like all the marches, all the protests, because like I said, for me, we are literally living in what could literally be the New World Order, what could be history in the making or history as it's being made. So we're right now a part of history. So it's really, really not like it's really up in the air, if anything, because it can go any way anywhere. I mean, Corona came and hit everybody, and no one expected that. And now we have the riots at which everyone seems to think are dying down, but really and truly, maybe people are just taking time to organize, or, you know, we spent the last 2 weeks rioting. Maybe we need a break. Maybe we need to sleep. Like, so, like, it can go anywhere. But what we have noticed, or what has happened, is that people are talking about racism yet again, anti-Blackness. The police are in certain spaces and places. Police are, again, exposing themselves. And for better or for worse, in I think it's in DC, I don't remember what city, but they have actually come up with a way, they have come up with this 8-step plan to how to make the police better. So like so many, like the discourse of this is crazy, and I'm sorry, not crazy. The discourse of this is a lot. And I don't even know what I want. I just know that I don't want this. So I'm excited to be on the right side of history.